Small businesses are part of the backbone of America's economy.
But pardon me, Madam Vice President, the question was, how are you going to pay for it?
Well, one of the things is I'm going to make sure that the richest among us who can afford it pay their fair share in taxes.
But we're dealing with the real world here.
But the real world includes...
How are you going to get this through Congress?
You know, when you talk quietly with a lot of folks in Congress, they know exactly what I'm talking about because their constituents know exactly what I'm talking about.
You can only hide for so long. The gimmicks, the disguises, they can only protect you for a certain amount of time. For a certain period of time, you can get away with faking a lot of things. For a little while, you might be able to fake your own wealth. Perhaps you're trying to impress a woman that you met. You're buying her diamonds. You're booking dinner cruises, weekend trips, and five-star hotels. Problem is, you're a woke welfare collector who is completely reliant on the government for your income. You're giving this woman a taste of an illusion that you cannot afford. Eventually, that credit card statement's going to come in the mail and you don't have any way of paying for it. For a while, you can even get away with faking an audience here on YouTube. There are dozens and dozens of sites where you can purchase fake YouTube views, but eventually the algorithm will figure out exactly what you're doing and your channel will be permanently banned. It never fails. The end result always the same. People who rely on gimmicks, people who rely on this utopian world of disguise and illusion, they always get hit with reality. The truth always comes to the light. You know, earlier this morning, I was talking to my wife about groceries. I am not a snacker. It is rare for me to eat junk food, but for some reason this morning, I had this rare craving for sugar. The pound of sugar that I put in my coffee, I guess that just wasn't enough. I go into the kitchen to grab a couple of peanut butter cookies. I bite into one of these cookies and it felt like I was biting into a cinder block. This damn thing was so hard, my tooth came out of my mouth just to slap the shit out of me. According to the expiration date on the bag, the cookies were supposedly fresh. I look at the brand and it says great value. What the hell is a great value? I've never heard of that brand of cookies before. Damn sure it didn't taste great and there was nothing valuable about it. So I asked my wife, what the hell's a great value cookie? She says, oh, you know, they were a couple dollars cheaper than the name brand, so I just always buy those. What? Couple dollars cheaper? Spend the few extra dollars and buy something that we can actually eat. But as we were having that conversation this morning, comparing great value to cookies that are actually edible, it reminded me of Tim Walz. 2 months ago, cackling Kam Harris, she was faced with a similar decision. Would Kam Harris be willing to spend a little extra for the quality brand, or would she go with the great value that's not such a great value? 2 months ago, Kam Harris had to choose between Josh Shapiro, a relatable, polished politician who probably would have been very appealing to most of the country and could have made it extremely difficult for the Trumper to win the election, or Commander Kam could go select fake Lieutenant Tim, a man who constantly lies about his military service, a man who spends his weekends coming up with how-to manuals that teach young men how to properly consume the morning after pill to prevent those pesky male pregnancies. Unfortunately for Kam Harris, she decided to go with the great value candidate. Last week, she was hit with the devastating consequences of that decision. If you haven't already, make sure to like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. Link to the second channel in the description below. Yesterday, we talked about the media pressuring Caitlin Clark to be baptized and born again so she could start preaching the good word and spreading the woke faith. I'll be back on the second channel later tonight. There's been a lot of speculation as to why Kam Harris selected great value over Josh Shapiro. Now, some in the media are claiming that Kammy selected Timmy because he appeals to voters in the Midwest. Basically, It was a decision based on emotion. Kam was reacting to the Trumpers selecting J.D. Vance from Ohio, so she selected Tim Walz from Minnesota. Now, while that could have played a role in Kam's decision, I think the main reason that she chose Tim Walz over Josh Shapiro, Kam Harris, she was afraid that Josh Shapiro would outshine her. She was afraid that Josh Shapiro would become a star. She was afraid that he would take all the spotlight that Kam believes should be given to her. Kam Harris, she doesn't have to worry about those concerns with Tim Walz because he is just as incompetent as she is. That clip I showed you at the beginning of this video, that clip was from 60 Minutes last night. It was a disastrous interview for Kam Harris because she was forced away from the talking point, she was forced away from the disguise, and she was required to give answers that were based in reality. But as disastrous as that interview was, and it was bad, the incompetence of Kam Harris, it is being overlooked this morning because she was completely out-dumbed by Tim Walz. Yesterday morning, Tim Walz was interviewed by Shannon Bream on Fox News. Now, before we get started, I do want to give credit to Tim Walz here for actually having the balls to show up on Fox News. It should not have been Timmy on Fox News yesterday morning being absolutely humiliated as he watched his future in politics vanish. It should have been Kam Harris. But Commander Kam, she is afraid to appear on Fox News. The leader of the cackling choir, she is afraid to answer questions that require an answer based in reality. Well, Casey, that's simply not true. Kam's not afraid of Fox News. She was just busy this weekend. Yeah, she was busy talking to some doofus white girl about the battery-powered cucumber. Oh, which size do you prefer? I prefer the super size that's powered by a car battery. Tomorrow, Kam is going to be busy talking to her new bestie, Howie Stern. I'm sure this will be a hard-hitting, revealing interview where Howie Stern pressures Kam to talk about policy. Oh, Kam, first of all, I admire what you have done to control the weather. I noticed that you flew into the studio on your climate-friendly broom. That is so inspiring. Now that the weather is under your control, the dozens of people listening to me really want to know what you are going to do about the dangerous COVID. I gotta tell you, Kam, Howie is afraid to leave home. I've used so much antibacterial soap, Kam, I've washed the skin off my hands. Howie can no longer spank the wanker. Oh! With Kam busy doing hard-hitting interviews with a doofus white girl and an aging fossil suffering from COVID-induced erectile dysfunction, Tim Walz was given the task of answering real questions from Fox News. This is why it is so important for presidential candidates to appear on a variety of platforms. And when I say that, I mean it both ways. It's important for Donald Trump to appear on CNN or MSNBC, and it's important for Kam Harris to appear on Fox News and other conservative media platforms. Now, if we had an honest media, it really wouldn't matter. But as you guys know, we don't have an honest media. We have a corrupt media. What I'm about to show you, this is what happens when inexperienced politicians are pressured. This is what happens when a media outlet takes a politician's disguise at the door and makes them show the country who they actually are. This is what happens when a politician gets caught in multiple lies and he doesn't have enough experience to save himself from the embarrassment. Watch it for yourself.
We're seeing economists talk about Donald Trump's proposal to add a 20% sales tax.
And just to note, that is a tariff, which, by the way, this administration not only kept most of the Trump tariffs, but they added their own as well. You've modified your story or explained that you misspoke about things involving your military rank, about carrying a weapon in war, your 1995 DUI arrest, using IVF, being in Hong Kong and China in the summer of 1989 during the Tiananmen events. What do you say to the American people who think, I I don't know that I can trust this guy.
Yeah, well, I think they heard me. They heard me the other night speaking passionately about gun violence and misspeaking. And I got to be honest with you, Shannon, I don't think people care whether I used IUI or IVF when we talk about this. What they understand is Donald Trump would resist those things. I have never disparaged someone else in this, but I know that's not what Donald Trump does. States like Georgia force women to cross the border, and then we have a death of Amber Thurman. Trying to cut hairs on an issue on this is not where the American public's at. They want the restoration of Roe versus Wade. Vice President Harris said she would sign it. That's what we'll do when we're elected.
But to be clear, the Minnesota law is far beyond Roe v. Wade. And about the Amber Thurman case in Georgia, what her family has said is it was a complication from an abortion pill that she received, and she didn't get proper care when she went to a Georgia hospital, which had multiple opportunities to intervene there. Her own attorney, the family's attorney, says it wasn't the Georgia law, it was the hospitals. What he claims is malpractice.
There's no other way to describe it. That was absolutely humiliating for Tim Walz. Matter of fact, the entire week last week was disastrous for Kam Harris. Last week was the worst week of her campaign. We witnessed Tim Walz get verbally decimated by a dude that's 15, 20 years younger than he is. According to reports, there were over 60,000 people at Trump's rally this weekend in Butler, Pennsylvania. Kam Harris, she was criticized this weekend for going on some podcast titled Call Me Daddy or Call Her Daddy. I looked up the show. It's hosted by some young woman named Alexandra or Alex Cooper. According to Rolling Stone, she is the Gen Z Barbara Walters. Excuse me? Gen Z Barbara Walters? I don't seem to remember Barbara Walters giving a step-by-step to her viewers, showing them how to safely insert the cucumber into each orifice. I have nothing against Alex Cooper. I'm sure she has a great show. She's very successful. Good for her. But I don't want a potential president laughing it up with some Gen Z feminine icon who wants to be called daddy. To be honest with you, I don't think any of this really matters. There's a reason that Kam Harris and Tim Walz are suddenly doing media interviews. There's also a reason that deacons at Woke United Methodist prevented them from speaking to the media over the summer. Every time Cammie and Timmy speak to the media, they humiliate themselves. But right now, they really don't have a choice. Kam Harris is in panic mode. She is desperate because Kam Harris knows she is losing this election. She is trying to do everything she can to shift momentum back to her side. Problem for Kam Harris, it ain't gonna work. And it's not going to work for a couple of reasons. Number one, Kam Harris is incapable. She's incompetent. She's got no charisma. She's not a good speaker. She doesn't have the ability to get people to follow her lead because Kam Harris isn't a leader. But even if she possessed those traits, it still wouldn't matter because her predecessor, our former fearless leader Johnny B. Biden, he already lost this election for Kam Harris. Only 28% of the country believes that America is on the right track. Now, guess how many incumbents have been reelected when over 70% of the country believes that we are heading in the wrong direction? Just take a wild guess. Give me your thoughts on this. Last week, disastrous for Kam Harris. Tim Walz was humiliated yesterday morning on Fox News. Kam gets humiliated on 60 Minutes. I mean, my God, just end this already. Are these people not tired of being embarrassed? I almost feel bad for them, but then I remember they are trying to destroy the country. Does Kam Harris have a chance to salvage this campaign? I think it's over. What about you? Sound off in the comments below. Like, subscribe, share the video. Appreciate your support. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, and I'll see you guys later.